real wild bad mistakes on the new constructions like we have on the rehabs. We have had some silly stuff, like especially on infill lots where you wouldn't have expected it. And one that comes to mind recently, like we're building four duplexes on a cul-de-sac, and they're infill lots, but the entire subdivision has been developed. It was developed years ago, and we knew that we had to run sewer across the street to tie into the sewer main, which we had budgeted for and expected. But when we cut the asphalt to go across the street, there was a boulder the size of a car, like 4 inches below the asphalt, which is not, it was not the right way when you're putting streets in. Like there's supposed to be subgrade and stuff that's there in case you ever have to dig it up. But the roads were put in probably 20 or 30 years ago, and obviously that wasn't checked on or a rule back then. And so we spent a lot of time and money jackhammering through a ginormous rock to put a sewer line in. And so we do have that kind of that silly stuff that pops up occasionally, but it's less on the new construction. I just go back to the biggest thing was probably on the front end, maybe not knowing the cost, and then running into estimation issues even on the new construction, and then just those occasional kind of minor unexpected things that pop up. But it's less than the rehabs by a lot.
Yeah, I get a lot of investors that reach out and they want to actually, buy a land and develop it. And I always tell the investors, listen, to 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 do build to rent as an individual investor, there was a short period of time where it made sense for a typical investor to do. That time period has long gone. And a couple of things have
Yeah.
changed over the years, specifically when it comes to the lending criteria, where most lenders are looking for an experienced builder to actually take on some of these investment properties. So your first couples are going to be challenged, specifically from the finance perspective. Where again, they're looking for at least five new builds in the last 2 years. And most, I mean, you probably had that experience from your rehabs that they gave you credit for. But for the most part, most investors who don't have that experience, you're going to pay, hard money loans that are 12 or 14%. On top of that, you're talking about multiple closings where you're buying the land closing, doing the construction loans at closing, then you're doing your end loan at the closing. You have, it could be 8 months to a year and a half, depending on the builder, if you're doing ground up construction for the entire process. And I always look at that money that you're putting into that new build could have otherwise gone to an existing property that cash flows for you today. Additionally, when you have, like what you mentioned, surprise costs that come up, just the dump tax, things you don't know. The other biggest challenge people don't give enough credibility to is when you're doing something like this is true for the rehab, but especially true in new construction, is everyone's going after your profit margin. Like your profit margin is everyone else's opportunity. So the ability to keep the cost of a build low is one of the most challenging parts for a developer. That if you are trying to do this from out of state, you have it's really difficult to do. So I want to understand from your perspective, obviously knowing that everyone's attacking your profit margins, like what do you do to safeguard so that your expenses for your builds don't go, into the red, right? Don't force your project to go negative.
Yeah, it's tough. So one thing I would say, so we're obviously in this and we believe in it, and we'll continue to build ground up new construction rentals because we want to grow our portfolio that way, and then we'll continue to do them for other people because it just helps fuel what we're already doing. It keeps our subcontractors busy and kind of an economies of scale thing for us. Um, Hindsight being 2020, had I known how tough it is to run a profitable construction company, I probably would have picked a different industry to go into because the profit margins are very, very tight. And I mean, very, very tight. There's no other, I have a lot of friends who are successful business owners, and I have a handful of them that are builders and they're successful at it. But there's not a lot of people that make it in the building industry because of that, because the profit margins are so tight on new constructions, especially today. Um, it just makes it really, really tough.